Welcome to the Chic Show. Today I have 3 budget-friendly fall ideas for you. Today's video is part of a playlist called What Would You Make? It's a monthly playlist hosted by these lovely ladies that you see here. I'll have their channels listed in the description box below along with the playlist. Project number 1 are calendar blocks. I'm using 6 of these thrifted wood blocks and I'm going to give them a coat of Waverly chalk paint and ink.
Because my love is here to stay. Nothing could chase it away. And you are the keeper I'm needing to keep on.
Now I'm going to use my candle wax and I'm going to scrape along the sides of each of the cubes. Next, I'm going to give them a coat of Waverly white chalk paint. Every place that the wax is applied will be sanded off to reveal the black underneath. The next part actually took me some time. Unless you have a more mathematical way of figuring out what to put on which block and how many blocks you actually need, this is what I came up with and it worked for me. I printed off this paper in the font that I wanted and I am simply tracing around the letters using carbon paper, and then I'll go back and fill them in with a black paint pen. Once all the letters have been colored in, there was one extra space, and you can see there I just drew a smiley face on it. Now I'm taking my sanding block and I'm just sanding around the edges of each of the blocks. And now we have a perpetual calendar that you can change every day and every month, and there's even a 4th block for those months like June and July. Project number 2 is a rustic pumpkin. I started with this pumpkin from Dollar Tree and I simply removed all the paper and then I removed the twine holding it together.
Take care of me.
And again, I'm using the candle wax method, so I'm being pretty generous with the candle wax on this pumpkin because I do want the paint to scrape away pretty good so that it looks really rustic. So I'm going around the edges and pretty heavily on top of each of the slats. I'm going to be painting each piece with Waverly Antique Wax. I want this to have a pretty dark background.
while we learn the ropes. Because my love is here to stay.
Here I've taken some orange acrylic paint and I've mixed it together with a little bit of antique wax just to give it a more aged orange look. It doesn't quite end up being orange enough, so I do go over it with that pumpkin orange acrylic paint. I'm painting two of the slats orange, and then on the bottom slat I am adding a little bit of orange.
Climb up that hill. I'll catch you if you fall.
The next slat will get dry brushed with some Waverly White chalk paint, and again on that bottom slat I'm going to be adding a little bit of white paint as well.
Nothing could chase it away.
And finally that middle slat will get dry brushed with Agave by Waverly, as well as that bottom slat.
You are the keeper I've been searching for.
And here's where I decided that orange wasn't quite bright enough, so I did go over it with one coat of acrylic orange paint.
I keep the light in the dark.
The pumpkin stem will get Waverly moss.
Keeper of my dreams.
I let everything dry for just a few minutes, but I went on with the scraper and scraped away the paint while it was still kind of wet. And you can see how the paint just scrapes away and leaves it looking really old and rustic. I continued to scrape each of the slats until I got the look I was going for. Once I have the front the way I want them, I flip them over to the back and I push the pieces together. We're going to secure these with some popsicle sticks.
You are the keeper I'm needing. Keeper of my dreams.
I used wood glue by Super Glue and I glued the sticks on. I also went back and secured it with my staple gun. Now I'm going to add a little vine to the top and this project is complete. So let me know what you think about this one. Should I have left the orange the darker color, or do you like the brighter color?
Me and my fragile heart. It's yours to keep, but it can break apart. I'll take care of you and all of your
My last project today is a fall market sign.
in my
For this project, I'm using one of these summer signs from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be removing the ribbon that's holding them together, so I have 3 separate pieces.
my love is here to stay.
Each piece will get a coat of Waverly moss on the back side. I lost the footage, but I did rub over it with some more candle wax and gave it a coat of Waverly white chalk paint once everything had dried. Now I'm taking my sander and I'm sanding around the edges and on the top. I wanted that green to show through a little bit more. I think I probably should have used the scraper method like I did in the last project. I used my laser printer and printed off the words pumpkins, pears, and plums, and I'm going to be using the reverse Mod Podge graphic method. So I've reversed them as I printed them out. I mirrored the image so that they would print out backwards, and now I'm going to coat them with Mod Podge and then place them down onto each piece. It's very important to let this sit overnight, at least 24 hours, before you move on to the next step.
Because my love is here to stay.
The next day, I went through and I made sure to wet all of the graphics so that I could see those letters coming through. I should have used a thinner paper for this. It's much easier with a thinner paper. But once you can start seeing those letters come through, if you keep your fingers moist with water and keep rubbing them onto the letters, that extra paper will just rub right away and leave you just with the letters. Once all the letters are rubbed away and while they're still a little bit moist, I covered it with Mod Podge to seal them in, and that does help take away some of that haze that you can kind of see. Now to hang the sign, I decided to use this chain and I cut it into 5 links. So I needed 6 pieces of 5 links, and then I used a longer piece at the top. I turned the pieces over and I hot glued the links in between each sign and at the top. And when the glue was dry, the sign was ready to be hung, and I did add a small bow at the top. Thanks again to these lovely ladies for hosting today. I'll have their channels listed in the description box below, so be sure and check them out, and also check out the playlist for some inspiration. Thanks so much for watching. Bye now.